Welcome and mahalo for joining us and taking this opportunity to learn about Waikoloa Village Solar, a proposed 60 megawatt solar photovoltaic project with 240 megawatt hours of battery storage. We look forward to hearing your questions and feedback after the presentation. My name is Katie Schwend. I'm a senior developer with Progression Energy, who is supporting EDF Renewables on this project. Devin Muto, the Director for Solar Development at EDF Renewables, is also joining us today, as well as Nolani Kalipi, the Chief Strategy Officer and Executive Vice President for Progression Energy, and Lokelani Brandt, Lead Archaeologist with ASM Affiliates. We'll present about the project and hear from some of the key team members. Then we'll take a 5-minute bio break, after which we'll be taking questions from the community. Showing up here today tells me one thing about all of you. Whether it's watching the sky light up at sunset or sunrise, or enjoying the outdoor activities all year round, like exploring our beaches and natural places, the sense of community that we all have here, and the spirit of aloha that persists. Hawaii inspires an appreciation for our home and a desire to take care of it. Noah, you're on mute.
Thanks. Hawaii has a rich history of sustainability founded in our pre-contact ancestral knowledge and practices. Our ancestors, who were experts in science and engineering, successfully managed a biosystem that sustained over 1 million people. Every day we see the rich history of that biosystem, whether in the Uala field system in Kohala, the Lo'i or Owai across our island, or in our island fish ponds. Our geographic isolation and abundant resources have been a blessing. Over time, however, we have become dependent on the convenience of imports, and our capacity for self-reliance has diminished. We rely primarily on fossil fuels for electricity generation, and we are importing more than 2 million meals per day.
And though we are the most isolated landmass in the world, we still feel the impact of events and changes happening across the globe, and sometimes at an even greater scale because of that isolation. As COVID takes a heavy toll on the US and the world, we feel it in our economy, and we see it in the delays in restocking shelves. When the global fuel prices fluctuate, our already higher prices at the pump amplify those impacts. And as Earth's climate shifts, Hawaii feels the effects on the consistency of our trade winds that power the local weather patterns. We see warmer ocean temperatures causing larger bleaching events of our coral, and our coast eroding from increasing king's tides. And for people in Hawaii, connection to place and appreciation for our home makes these impacts real and personal. And I think that's why there are so many people here who are inspired to be a part of solutions and redevelop our island's resilience, creating alternative solutions that apply locally, but also inform and influence globally. From the reforestation projects to preserve biodiversity, like Waikoloa Dry Forest Initiative here in your backyard, or pushes to increase and diversify agriculture production, or our legislature leading the nation in 2015 by adopting the first 100% renewable energy standards, with many states now who have followed suit. Hawaii is facing a number of challenges and leading towards solutions in many sectors. And those solutions need community support. Community support is what drives these initiatives forward and makes them successful.
100% renewable generation, however, is not without its technical challenges. Hawaii's utility companies have been leading the country in the amount of variable renewable energy on our island's isolated grids. This has resulted in proven success based on creativity and innovation. Building on this demonstrated success, the utility launched the current competitive process to source new renewable power generation that requires battery energy storage systems to ensure reliability and stability of the grid so that electricity is readily available day and night. This competitive process allows for experienced developers like EDF Renewables to participate in this exciting time in Hawaii's history. In November of last year, companies submitted proposals with those required technologies. And in May, HECO announced 16 proposed projects throughout the state. Key assessment criteria that they considered were proven and reliable technologies, competitive pricing, ability to work with community, as evidenced by the partnerships EDF has established with its local experts, and both the technical and financial capacity and experience to successfully complete the project.
So in Waikoloa Village Solar was one of those projects, and EDF was very excited to find out that our partnership with Waikoloa Village Association on the project would advance to the next phase. We're now in the process of further refining the project and negotiating with Hawaiian Electric on a power purchase agreement. The project, as Katie mentioned, is a 60 megawatt solar photovoltaic project. On the upper left-hand photo here on the slide, you can see what a typical solar panel looks like. These are actually a fixed tilt that's being shown right here, but our system is going to be a single axis tracker. We also have a 240 megawatt hour battery that's going to be coupled with the project. And the other photos on this slide are giving examples of what the lithium ion batteries are typically built as in today's projects. They're either in containers or cabinets and located in a clustered area within the project. This project will connect to Hawaii Island's grid and support the electricity needs of the island.
So for the project location, the location was selected for a few key reasons. One, we all know that there's a great solar resource in this area. It's also close to the transmission infrastructure that allows it to feed the Hawaii Island grid. It aligns with the South Kohala Community Development Plan, as well as the Waikoloa Village Association Strategic Plan. And it's located on Waikoloa Village Association land, which means that there's direct financial benefit to WVA. The image that you see here, the yellow outlines the Waikoloa Village Association lands and the project study area as a whole that we looked at. And then the white block that you see here is the potential project area. We're still early in the development and the design phase, and we will provide updates to the public on the final project location and layout, as well as the point of interconnection into the grid and the transmission route that will connect into those existing infrastructure points for the HECO grid. And yes, many of you are probably looking at this and saying, this is a big project and it does require a substantial amount of land. This will be about 600 acres of panels distributed through about 1,000-acre area. But a big project also means really big results and more energy independence for our island. So this is estimated to generate about 172,000 megawatt hours of clean renewable energy each year for at least the 25-year life of the project. This is equivalent to 32,000 households that'll be powered, or 26,000 passenger cars driven over 1 year. And this will offset about 121,000 metric tons of CO2 emissions every single year. And a project of this size is really where you need the experience, the financial resources, and the technical capability. And that's where EDF Renewables comes in. EDF is a global leader in renewable energy, and they're being supported by Hawaii-based expertise.
So I'm going to tell you a little bit about EDF, if we can go to the next slide. So EDF Renewables is a market-leading independent power producer serving North America. We're a subsidiary of EDF Group, who provides energy services and solutions globally to over 20 countries. At EDF Renewables, we focus on 3 main product lines. Those are grid-scale power, such as the project that we're discussing today, distributed solutions, such as rooftop solar and electric vehicle charging, and then asset optimization, which covers the operations of renewable projects. Our North America headquarters are located in San Diego, California, which is where I also live and work, and so do a large portion of our staff. Next slide. So what does this mean to Hawaii and its goals? Well, in general, it means that we're very well positioned to bring expertise, experience, and resources to help you achieve your goals. We have a track record of successfully bringing over 16 gigawatts of projects online, with another 26 coming down the pipe. And we have a lot of experience overcoming the myriad of issues that projects confront as they go through development. We also operate over 11 gigawatts of projects, some of which are on Hawaii. And this gives us the perspective of what a successful project needs to look like, not only on day 1, but on year 1, year 10, and year 20 and 30. Next slide. It also means that we have experienced how different communities can be, and there's no single solution that can be applied across our projects. We've worked in many different communities throughout North America, and we understand why community engagement and working with local experts is so important. We want to make sure that we understand the priorities and considerations specific to community members.
So why solar? Well, we have a lot of it, that's for sure. And it can support our island's energy independence through clean and sustainable sources. There's no fuel imports that are required for this. There are no fossil fuels that are burned to generate electricity, which means no combustion, emissions, or odors from this project. It's reliable and affordable technology to maintain, and it lasts a long time. So because we have different levels of background knowledge, I just want to take a moment to kind of give an overview of some of the project features and some of the things that Devin had mentioned before. So we know our solar panels absorb energy from the sun and they convert that into electricity. These are, some folks have asked me, are these going to be big mirrors that are reflecting as I'm driving down the road? They're actually designed to absorb the sunlight and not reflect it. So they even have a layer on it to minimize the reflection that may happen naturally, so that we can get all the energy that's possible from them. They're going to be mounted on trackers, as Devin mentioned, so that they'll follow the sun throughout the day. And the energy produced by them will then be fed into the battery systems to make it available when we need it. The inverters then turn that electricity or that energy from a DC format to the AC format that's used in all of our homes and businesses. And the project will be connected into the existing transmission and distribution system that's managed by Helco and feeds our entire island.
All right, so what's our process for making that all happen with Waikoloa Village Solar? Well, this is a very basic overview of the major development phases of the project. It started in 2019 with our reply to the RFP. And then as we go through development from here, that's going to take us a few years, and it consists primarily of design and permitting, but a lot of other technical aspects to that. We're targeting construction in 2022. That will likely extend to 2023, and our projected operation date is at the end of 2023. And here's some additional detail on the process. The main point of this slide is to demonstrate that we're still early in the project, and there's a lot of opportunities for community engagement and coordination with local agencies and regulators. As you can see, we began with submitting on the proposal, or submitting our proposal, and going through the award selection with HECO. We've initiated our site studies, and we're here today holding our public meeting in advance of the PUC consideration. We are working right now towards kind of a key major milestone, which is getting our PPA agreement completed and advancing that for review by the PUC. But then we still have a number of other major milestones to go through, including our permits, getting approval of those, initiating construction, and then going to operations. Ultimately, this project is contracted or would be contracted for 25 years. So whether it's at 25 years or beyond, we would then move to decommissioning.
So now I'm going to go over the fun stuff in a little more detail, the permits that'll be required. So this public meeting that you're all sharing with us today on July 13th marks the start of a 30-day comment period. All of the comments that we receive will be submitted verbatim to the Public Utility Commission. As they review the power purchase agreement, as a part of the approval process, they also review community feedback. So our first part is going to be working with the county on plan approval, and then moving into the standard building and construction permits. So grubbing and grading, building permits, electrical permits. In addition, then we're also going to simultaneously be running with the state and federal processes, working with State Historic Preservation Division and their historic preservation requirements. And so we have one of our partners here, ASM affiliates, who are going to be talking about the process that they're going through to support that. We also have the NPDES construction stormwater permit. That's with the Clean Water branch that happens with all large construction. The stream channel alteration permit is with the a public commission on water resource management. If that is required, it's because we have a road that is crossing an existing stream bed, and that road will have to be upgraded. So this may or may not be required. That goes through a public commission, which does include a public comment period. We also have the Clean Water Act 401 and 404 with the Clean Water Branch and the Army Corps of Engineers, respectively. Though not all of these permits require a public meeting, we will be hosting more public meetings during key parts of the development process to make sure that the community stays engaged and informed of the development process. And another key part of this is our preliminary environmental assessment. So some of the studies are still pending, like the biological surveys, hydrological, archaeological, and cultural impact. This project does not trigger a full National Environmental Policy Act process, nor the Hawaii Environmental Review process under Hawaii Revised Statutes 343. But regardless, we do go through this as an important part of the development process.
So I'm going to walk through a few of these issues real quick, and I'm going to try to do it quick. So if there are any questions, feel free to ask us afterwards. So just starting with air quality emissions with solar projects are typically very low. Our operations are very low intensity. We don't have a whole lot of vehicles associated with it. And as Katie mentioned, the production of the energy itself does not produce emissions. During construction, the main air emission that we're concerned with is dust. We deal with it on a regular basis. We have a number of typical industry measures that we would be applying during construction to reduce dust emissions from the project. From a climate perspective, greenhouse gas emissions are going to be analyzed actually by Hawaiian Electric as part of the PUC process. But generally what we've seen is that solar and other renewable projects provide a net decrease in greenhouse gas emissions, which is why they're so beneficial to the future of our planet. From a noise perspective, kind of similar to air quality, generally pretty low intensity during operations. So limited noise impacts coming from the project. During construction, we do have to follow Hawaii Department of Health noise regulations, which set allowable decibel levels and also the time that construction activities can be occurring on site. And then with the traffic and roadways, again, like I said, relatively low impact operations, very few trips that are coming and going to the site. During construction, obviously you are going to see an increase in workers and deliveries to the site. However, the access would not be near the main intersection of Waikoloa Village. And often we see that our trips to the project would be at off-peak hours. Lastly, I'll hit on solid waste. Solid waste is something that we coordinate closely with our contractors and with our vendors. We maximize recycling of all materials and do have a policy to limit waste coming from the site. And I'll be coordinating with all our contractors on that.
For the biological, the flora fauna surveys will be conducted in the coming months, and those results will be made available to the public. For flood and tsunami, we all know there's no tsunami risk here, and it's also not in a FEMA 100-year floodplain zone. The water quality hydrological studies are currently being conducted to assess any increased water flows that may occur, and any increase in drainage will be handled on site per county requirements. Then another one that I get a lot of questions about, of course, is visual resources. Will this project be visible? Yes, it will be visible, but the good thing is that it will not be visible from Waikoloa Village. It's primarily visible from far away. There are some small areas. You may have seen me on the side of the road in my car taking pictures or driving through your neighborhoods, because we really wanted to understand how much the community might be impacted, especially the community members with houses on the Mauka side of the village. There's a utility road there. And so we drove that, and we really looked at any place where we might be able to see the project. And I'm happy to say that there were very few areas that you could see the project at all, because of the natural rolling hills and plateaus that are just everywhere in Waikoloa. There were a couple of areas where you would see pieces of the project, but because of the buffer zone set by Waikoloa Village Association, it actually clears most of those impacts. For the impacts from further away for visual resources, this is an existing picture coming down Waikoloa Village Road, or sorry, Waikoloa Road towards the village. You can see it pointed out there. This is where it will be visible. We had to put it in yellow so that you could really see it. So this area here is where the project will be visible, and you can see on this map where the photo was taken from. We took another one from Highway 190 going from Waikoloa, the turnoff to Waikoloa to Waimea. And from here, it will be largely visible as well. So the Waikoloa Village is right here, and the proposed projects will be visible in this area. Next, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Lokelani Brandt to talk a little bit about the archaeological and cultural processes.
All right. Aloha mai kako. As I mentioned, my name is Waikoloa Brandt. I'm originally from Kaneohe, but I live in Waiakea Hilo with my family. I'm a senior archaeologist with ASM, and we have two offices, one in Hilo and one in downtown Honolulu. So we have been contracted to conduct the archaeological inventory survey. And the main purpose of that is to identify and assess archaeological resources that may be impacted by the proposed project. My colleague, actually Matthew Clark, who is leading the archaeological inventory survey, was not able to be here with us today because they're actually doing field work right now for the project. So we've been out there for the past couple of days surveying, and yes, the very undulating terrain out there. And so I am leading the cultural impact assessment study, and the goal is to identify and analyze the impacts of the proposed project on any traditional cultural practices, cultural features, resources that's in the project area, and even beyond as well. Yeah. So the cultural impact assessment is a really good, it's another opportunity for community members to share their knowledge about any traditions, history, resources, past or ongoing cultural practices that are associated with this area in Waikoloa. So consultation is a critical piece of the cultural impact assessment process, and this type of really place-specific knowledge is often held in the memory of the people and not necessarily in books. So consultation is one way for us to be able to achieve and understand the landscape better. And so if you will be, or if you know, or if you yourself know or know of any other individuals that would be willing and interested in sharing any such information with me, I would love to get in contact with you folks and set up some times for us to meet. And so Katie will have my contact info posted at the end of the presentation, so you can jot down my email and phone number in that case. So yeah, that's sort of our role in this.
Thank you very much. And yes, we'll make that information available. And if for some reason you forget to write it down, you can just email it info@Waikoloa Village Solar, and we'll get that over to you. All right, so moving on, I just want to first say I really appreciate all the people who have taken the time to speak with us so far, and I look forward to hearing from more of you. We've been really pleased to hear how many people are supportive of solar and green energy for Hawaii. We love that support. That's how we know that we might be on the right track, but we also understand that it still has to be done right. Hearing feedback and concerns is really important as well. We want to take this opportunity right now to make sure that we've heard you accurately, and for you to know that we take your concerns and advice seriously as it informs our planning and design process. So first one that has come up the most prevalently is that this region is a fire-prone region, and there's a lot of curiosity about any fire risks associated with this. Fire safety is a priority for us as well. Fire mitigation steps will be taken into consideration and integrated into the project to manage these risks that any approaching fire may pose. We'll be working with the county, the fire department, our Firewise community orgs, as well as Hawaii Wildfire Management Organization in the planning of those mitigation steps to look at what's most effective. People have also asked if this project poses any fire risk. It's the same technology that we see all around our island already, but it's at a larger scale. So many of you probably have rooftop panels, or your neighbors do, and this is a familiar technology. Batteries is where I've heard more skepticism and concern because it is less familiar, but there have been many advances in this technology. We see many more Priuses and Teslas and electric cars of all varieties on the roads every day. These have similar lithium ion battery systems, and advances in battery systems and the chemistry used in them has really addressed these risks. Plus, additional safety measures and fire suppression systems are built into these as well.
So I'll address the local job creation item. So as you heard from Lokalani, some local jobs are already being supported by this project. We've been working with local expertise in the early phases of this development as they really understand the on-the-ground realities the best. We're going to continue to look to local expertise to support our project, and once we move to construction, we're also going to encourage the same of our contractors. There's going to be a big demand on labor as multiple projects are going to be built around the same time from the Hawaiian Electric RFP, so there's going to be a lot of opportunities.
And this growing industry, as it meets the 100% renewable energy mandate, presents huge employment opportunities for Hawaii. We are currently working with the Hawaii State Energy Office to help create pathways for the skill sets and job types that will be needed. The state is working to address job training opportunities early in order to get in front of the demand for labor. I'm also going to talk about a question we get a lot. I used to get this a lot in the development that we've done about the price of electricity. So we've also been asked about this project's impact on electricity prices. The price is set by the PUC and the utility. Luckily, however, the RFP process focuses on competitive pricing. So as developers, we're incentivized to do these projects as cost efficiently as possible. This project will have a 25-year purchase price agreement, a PPA, which allows for stable pricing for the life of the project. We've also heard about residential solar and the question of, is this going to compete with rooftop solar? And I would like to say, for Hawaii to get to 100% renewable energy, we need all solar. We need all of the options. The needs are great enough for the entire island that we need all of the options to succeed.
So on the equipment safety and toxicity item, because of the scale of our development at ADF, we have a close relationship with the tier 1 vendors, and we're able to thoroughly research and vet the technology that we use. Our success has been based on the success of our equipment. So we seek the top of the line in terms of reliability and safety. Standard components that we're using on this project are used throughout the electrical grid. You see many of them in residential solar, but also in communities for utility scale solar. And these are not new technologies or really different technologies, really just differences in the scale. So generally they present very little risk, both from a safety and toxicity perspective. On the decommissioning item, so decommissioning, if you haven't heard the term, that's removal of the project at the end of its life. It's a standard requirement for our projects. And so we have a lot of experience with developing these plans and for plans for recycling the major components of the project and returning the land to pre-project condition. As an example, right now, we're currently working with a number of our suppliers on recycling programs that they're developing, even though they're not really going to ramp up for another 25 to 30 years. We want to make sure that we have them in place. And then on the site security issue, we typically have not faced major security issues at our projects. The entire project will be fenced. If needed, it can have security cameras and additional monitoring, but often that's not necessary. Then on educational opportunities, we have heard interest in various types of educational opportunities associated with the project. We are very interested in working with local organizations and other interested individuals on supporting programs, whether they're related to tourism or to youth or other types of ways to interact and support the community. We're definitely interested in it, and please share those ideas with us, and we'll be happy to continue discussions with you and see if we can make them work.
We've also heard a few people bring up increased sedimentation that might occur because having this big area cleared. There's not a lot of vegetation holding soil in place currently because of the years of grazing and herds of goats that live out there right now. So it's not a big change from the baseline, regardless of that. This is what the hydrological studies will help to inform for the drainage designs to mitigate any downstream impacts. We've also had a lot of people pleased that we're leasing land directly from Waikoloa Village Association so that the benefits are also direct to this community-based organization. And then the visual impact we did already address. I just saw a question, and I'm only going to bring up here because this should be on this list as well, is UXO. I completely blanked, but yes, there have been a lot of people who have also mentioned that. We are well aware that this is within the Waikoloa maneuver area. We're working with qualified contractors, the Army Corps of Engineers, as well as the Department of Health to manage those risks and clear that area everywhere that it's needed. So thank you very much. And the other questions we will get to in the Q&A. So for just to kind of pull all of this together, we've talked throughout the presentation about what some of the benefits are. So I'm going to go over these really quick just in terms of the project benefits and then the community-based benefits, and then we'll move into finishing up here. So for project benefits, we have energy independence. That is because of the reduction in fossil fuel imports that'll now be required for our electricity needs. Greenhouse gas emission reduction, also from the production of energy based in fossil fuels currently, and price stability for a 25-year life of this project, as well as the economic stimulus and job creation. So the project benefits are really, what does this project bring to our island? For the community benefits, this is more specific to Waikoloa. So the community vision fulfilled in the CDP, as well as the strategic plan for WVA themselves. And then of course the lease income that will go directly to the Waikoloa Village Association for leasing this land for the development of renewable energy for the next 25 years. So to wrap up, we really want to hear from you. Community engagement is a key part of our development process. We recognize that people are the experts within their own community, and community can push projects forward or pull them back. And given the full alignment with the community identified priorities defined in those regional plans that I mentioned, including being on Waikoloa Village Association lands, as well as people's commitment that I'm hearing over and over again to try and address climate change for future generations and broaden the focus of our community to be good, the broader focus of our community to be good stewards of this place that we love. Our hope is that you will help us support Hawaii's potential to be a model for innovation and for energy independence. You can push this opportunity forward by submitting comments, by talking story with us, which we're always happy to do on a one-on-one and small group basis as well, and helping us to better understand what it is important to this community and how we can build a partnership that lasts through the life of this project. So how to participate, my contact information is up here, as well as Lokelani's contact information. Our website, waikoloavillagesolar.com. All the information that we've shared today, as well as this presentation, will be up on there. You can sign up for the newsletter if you want to keep getting updates. You can do that either on the website or by emailing us at info@waikoloavillagesolar.com. And in addition, all of the comments that you'll be making either today, or if you have other comments, you can send those in via email, again at info@waikoloavillagesolar.com, or by checking out our website. There's options there to submit. And as I mentioned, these comments for the next 30 days will be submitted to the PUC for their review. All right, so we're gonna take about a 5-minute bio break. If anyone has questions about how to Zoom, I see a lot of folks using the chat feature. That's great. You can play around with your, I'll go ahead and exit this. You can play around with your microphone and video. If you'd like to turn that on, you're welcome to. And so at about, we'll say 6:12, we'll come back and start taking and answering questions. And I see the ones that are already in the chat, and so we will go ahead and get to those first. So thank you guys much, and I'll see you in about 4 minutes. We'll go ahead and move into the question and answer part. You can submit questions through the chat. I recommend chatting it out to everybody so we can all see the questions that are coming up and who's asking what. Or if there's a question that's coming up multiple times, you're also welcome to chat via or ask questions using your microphone. So let us get through a few of the written questions first, and then we'll pause and we'll take some audio ones. Sound good? Thumbs up. Good. Okay. So starting from the top, Makali'i asked, is this the same project that sent me the mailer? No, this is a different project, and you are correct that this is also another company that starts with an E. That is NG, and this is EDF Renewables. There is also another set of letters, AES, who also has a project being developed for solar for Hawaii Island. So we know it does get a little bit confusing, but this project is EDF Renewables. Next one is, are we taking into account the timelines on building permits? Yeah, we've been advising them that whatever they expect their timelines to be typically, double that maybe. And then that's a more reasonable place to start. So we've already been in conversation with the county regarding what permits we'll need and what the processes are for that, so that we're well ahead. We also have a Hawaii-based permitting expert, PSI, that we've been working with as well for that. So thank you for the heads up on that. We appreciate it. And same with the state permits, absolutely. PSI is also supporting that effort. When I mentioned the wind patterns affected by climate change and the frequency of trade winds, yes, that is an excellent Manoa researcher by the name of Chip Fletcher. I highly recommend checking out the information and the videos that he has on YouTube if you're interested in learning more about that. So 3 questions from Ruth. How will the cable be connected into the existing electrical fire poles on the fire road? Second, I'm going to read them all and then I'll address them. Second, is aging taken account in the calculation total of the energy produced over the 25-year life of the project? Yes, and I'll let Devin address that one in more detail. And then third, what will happen to all those panels after they've reached the end of the life? Who's responsible for that? So I'll let Devin talk about that, but I think that that question was probably asked before we talked about decommissioning of the project. So for the first one, how will the cable connect into the existing infrastructure on the fire road? It will not. It is not going to likely connect into those poles. There is another connection point. We're currently assessing exactly where the point of interconnection is. That is a study process that goes on in collaboration with HECO. They really talk to us about what our grid needs, and then we work with them on developing in that manner. But the fire road that directly abuts the village is not one of the areas, to our knowledge, that they're currently talking about. So.
Yeah, and then with regards to taking into account aging on the panels, that is something that we include in our modeling. So when we're looking at the total energy produced, both our panel manufacturers produce factors for taking into aging and the reduction in production, but we also actually have test facilities that we have constructed in California. And so we place all the models that we put out there in a test situation where we're also actively testing them. And so we basically double check the factors that they're giving us. So yep, that's all in our modeling. That all is then coordinated with Hawaiian Electric and as part of our contract with them. And then what happens to the panels when they're done with their life? So as I mentioned, we're working with all of our major suppliers to develop recycling programs. Some of our suppliers actually have them in place. In some cases, for those suppliers that don't have them in place, we've identified third-party entities that will take on the recycling. But we're hopeful that by the time that we're getting to decommissioning, that basically all of our suppliers are going to have robust recycling programs in place. And Katie, I think you skipped over the one quick question from Nicholas. EDF does stand for Electricité de France. That is associated with our parent group. And then at the subsidiary level, we don't use the term because it doesn't really have much value. So we're EDF Renewables is the official name of our subsidiary.
Thank you, Devin. I did miss that one at the end there. For visual impact, will there be more new power lines needed? This is from Makali'i. Yes, likely there will be to connect into the substation. And as soon as we have the details on that and the location, all of that information will be available on our website. We'll also include it in the newsletter and any public meetings that happen after this as well. So if you want to stay up to date on that, I recommend you sign up for the newsletter too. I'll plug that there. In addition, what's the benefit to Waikoloa Village Association for leasing? So we have a lease agreement with them that will pay lease fees to them. Devin, do you want to say any more on that?
No, we're still in conversations with them on the specific terms of the lease. So those aren't something that I can go into in detail right now, but I'm sure at some point when those are finalized, and they'll be available to members of the association.
Mm-hmm. And for where will they be? So in the map that we showed right now, the project area, the potential project area that we're looking at is Mauka of the village. Let me see if I can just pull that slide up really quick for you. One moment.
I think while you're doing that, Katie, the best that I can say right now is that we're still working on it. We're coordinating really closely with Hawaiian Electric on where we can interconnect into the grid. There's currently lines that run on the south side of Waikoloa Road, and then I think, as was mentioned, along the Mauka side of the village. So there's a possibility that our interconnection could be any one of those locations. It's preferred, obviously, for us to have as short of a connection and building new transmission lines to get to that connection point. But until we've fully worked that out with Hawaiian Electric, we won't know for sure. But as Katie mentioned, definitely stay tuned, get on the newsletter. As we progress with the project, then we're going to be pushing out information as we learn more.
So as you can see on your screen now, this is the potential project area that we are currently assessing. This is larger than the actual footprint of the project in that it will be about, this is probably maybe 1,000 acres, and it'll be within here about 600 acres distributed in the areas, leaving in some of the more prominent features and grading and working with the areas that are more readily available and easy for installation of panels. So I'll go ahead and pull that back down and stop sharing. Did I stop sharing? Nope.
Yeah, we can just see your desktop.
Working on it. There it is. Okay. Okay. So let's see who else we have here. So then from Nathaniel, will general contractors selected for the project be signatory to local union collective bargaining agreements?
Yeah, so I can speak with that. We commonly have our contractors sign project labor agreements with the local unions. We don't have selected our contractor for this project yet, so I can't commit them to that, but we'd be working closely with them, and our expectation is that there's going to be a preference for local hiring.
And then the next question from Nicholas about secondary pollution, often referring to as cited as a disadvantage of solar panels.
Sure, I can take that as well. So yeah, so most solar panels are made up of various constituents. There are some heavy metals within the panel itself. There have been some studies where if a panel is completely destroyed and left to sit on the ground, that it does have potential of leaching some of those metals out. So with our projects, that hasn't been a concern. First of all, we don't let our broken panels lay around, and typically the panels don't break. So it's really very low risk as long as you're keeping your site clean and abiding by normal regulations for hazardous material cleanup and best maintenance practices at your site.
Thank you for that question and answer. Next one from Herb. How does this differ from the non-functioning large panels at OTEC? And Noy is going to go ahead and take this one for us.
That primary field in the front at OTEC is a commercial solar facility, and that was done at a research stage. The panels that we are utilizing are a more proven technology that has advanced and are more common in lots of the large-scale utility solar projects.
My canine alarm. Shelley asked, this part of the island used to be part of a large dry forest. Absolutely. I love going out to the forest out there with the Waikoloa Dry Forest Initiative. Those guys are doing great work, which was reduced dramatically after contact for a variety of reasons. Since there's little left of this valuable ecosystem, will the project ensure that no critically endangered endemic species will be destroyed? You can destroy all the fountain grass though. Thank you for that permission. So that is why we will be conducting flora and fauna surveys. So we will have our biological experts going out there and running transects across the property to ensure that there are not any of those. Of course, there are strict legal requirements around all critically endangered species, and we respect and will follow those to the utmost. So yes, thank you for that question. And as I mentioned earlier too, the results of those surveys will also be publicly available and posted on our website for everyone. So next I have, if wires aren't gonna, oh sorry, hold on, it moved on me. If wires aren't going to connect to the poles on the fire road, where will they connect and how many new poles will go up and where? Again, so I think that Devin probably addressed this already in that as soon as we have that information, we will share it publicly. But right now that's a process of study, assessment, and design with HELCO. What's the typical efficiency of panels compared to, let's say, a similar project at 9,000 feet or above? I don't know if anyone on this call is quite to the engineering level to be able to answer that one. But Nicholas, if you would really like to know, please email us and we will get the correct answer to you. We're happy to go ahead and dig a little deeper, but I don't want to speculate and make something up and give it to you. So thank you. Unless, Devin, you got that off the top of your head?
No, I would defer to our solar engineers.
Right on. Okay.
I think it's actually generally it's better because the solar resource is better, but then you potentially have, yeah, well, then you have to have more potential for weather. So there's various factors that go into you know, what type of production you're gonna get out of your panels. Unless you have a great inversion layer like Hawaii does, where it gets clear up there. But anyways, we're not talking about putting anything up there. From Pauline, I'm all for solar, but I have two concerns about siting. First, there's a major difference between zoning and TMK 18 versus 19. 19 is the only open land we have that's not deed restricted. As such, it's the only land that we can develop or sell for development, and it's much more valuable. It would be preferable to site on 19. Could that happen? Second, the strategic plan says that large scale solar developments should be 1.5 miles outside of the village. Why is it so close? So this has actually been a discussion directly with the Waikoloa Village Association. They outlined the lands that they decided to put in the request for information that they provided to HELCO to make available to any developers who may be interested. And then they work directly with developers on agreements going into the RFP process. But that has all been a part of the board association. But of course and so that's also where the buffer zone was outlined and came in.
Excuse me, I mistyped. It's 18 that's of more value to us.
18 is more valuable. Well, that is good to know. And I'm not, oh, 18 is the smaller one. And part of it is siting in this area in general.
18 is is directly west. And it goes a lot further. Well, they both go a lot further away from the village than you're currently citing this.
Mm-hmm. Devin, do you want to speak to the siting and location in terms of the panels?
Yeah, sure. So there's a lot of different factors that go into our preferred siting. Part is the distance to the existing infrastructure. There's also the topography of the land, how much grading we're going to have to do, and then how we can access the site as well. So having the site be close to the road is critical. Having us not have to do too much grading, and as you know, many of you probably are aware who have gone out to these portions of the property, that can get pretty rugged out there, and there's only so much grading that we basically have in our pro forma to make the project work. So we're trying to carefully balance that with where we look. So we're continuing to look at those sites and see where we can develop. But the reality is there's not a ton of property out there that's really conducive to solar development. So we're having to be very open-minded and strategic about where we're able to actually put this project.
And the other part too that I would share is that we really, I took a pretty good look at what the visual impacts will be. And even though it looks very close from the air, it actually, from being on the ground in the village, the visual impact would likely be more if it was further away than up close the way it is, because of the way the topography is there and creating these natural visual barriers as well. Can we speak to the PUC shutting down Huhonua and what that might mean for our project getting approved? Noe, can you speak to that, please?
Generally, we don't comment on other people's dockets, but the issue with respect to that ruling was about a competitive bid process. And what I'll say to that is we are part of a PU sanctioned competitive bid framework that the utility worked through. So we're part of a process that all of the projects are going through. And so we're in it's a very much so an apples to oranges comparison, because the PUC has sanctioned this competitive process.
Thank you. And a question from Nicholas about construction costs and operation costs. So we are very early in the development process, and being able to give you accurate numbers on that would be very difficult, actually impossible, and I don't want to speculate at this time. But we'll have a lot more information available later. And so right now it looks like we've got through all the chat questions. If I missed any, please flag me on that. Otherwise, we'll open it up right now to see if anybody else wants to ask questions out loud. Otherwise, we're also getting to the close of our meeting, so we'll just be taking a couple more. And we're always available in addition as well.
Just one from me. It's in some of your photos, under the panels, it showed all the weeds growing back up. So it's not concrete or anything else being poured out there under everything.
We hope not.
Okay.
No.
So until the weeds grow back up, that dust out there is pure silt after a fire goes through, and this village gets buried in it. So what are you going to really do about dust mitigation to keep that down during the construction when the wind blows?
So
Yes.
oh, go ahead, Devin.
Oh, yeah. So as I mentioned before, we work very closely with our construction contractors on that. They do a variety of techniques, includes watering, includes staged grading. At the end of construction, we do look at using sometimes mulch or binder as well on the ground if necessary. So there's a lot of different techniques that we can do. And part of it's also just done while you monitor the site, right? When you're in active construction and you see an issue that's occurring, then you can employ the right measures to address that issue. So that's definitely on our radar, and we'll be working closely with our contractor to make sure that we're addressing it.
Yeah, because the sky just turns brown after a fire when that silt that really affected my dog when I used to run out there, it just blows up in these puffy clouds. you know, so.
Yeah. So, and one other thing I'd say is, while we can do the best to address our own issues, there are, obviously current, challenges, even the dust that you experience right now. So, there's going to be certain things that we can't completely prevent if there's already dust occurring in the area. I know that there's some flooding issues that occur in the area sometimes. So things like that, we'll try our best to address those situations, especially when they're associated with our site, but there's only so much we can do from the whole areas itself.
Yeah, okay.
All right, so we are at our end of our time. As I mentioned before, we will be posting this recording online. So if you know anyone who couldn't make it today, please refer them to that. We'll also be taking comments for the next 30 days that will be submitted verbatim to the PUC. So it's definitely easier to get those comments in a written form. So feel free to email us at info@waikoloavillagesolar.com. You can also visit our website, same web address, waikoloavillagesolar.com. And our phone numbers and all of that are also available. So feel free to reach out if you want to understand more, talk story. If you know other community groups who have an interest in learning more, I'm always happy to set up smaller Zoom meetings like this so we can have more of a dialogue as well. So thank you everybody for your time and have a wonderful rest of your evening. I think I got you out of here in time to get sunset. So enjoy.
Thank you.
Aloha.
Mahalo. Thank you.
Mahalo for coming.
I guess we just click leave.
Yep, you just click leave.
You're welcome to leave.
Also, good job, Herb.
You're not required to stay.
Hey, not bad for my first time on anything like
You did great. You figured it out quick, man.
I know, but thank you. It was your instruction. Okay, I hit leave meeting and it.
There it goes.
You got it. All right.